Most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power, divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people, but we're so stupid following our politicians, whether they are Republicans or Democrats.
And let's be clear, there is no vaccine for racism.
And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
In 1912, Willa Bruce, a black woman, married to a black man named Charles, purchased 2 undeveloped lots in a block of undeveloped lots, owned by George Peck in an unincorporated section of Los Angeles County. The 2 lots fronted on Sand Beach. Willa paid $1,200 for the first lot. After Willa purchased the lots, the section became incorporated as the city of Manhattan Beach. By the beginning of World War I, Willa had constructed a 2-story frame building on the lots, which she operated as a seasonal hotel, catering to the 15,000 black people who lived at that time in the Los Angeles community of 320,000 white people.
Willa operated her hotel business for 10 years with success, this proven by her advertisements in the California Eagle newspaper of the Times. Black people would come from Los Angeles by streetcar and spend either the day or the weekend at the hotel. During this 10-year period, most of the lots in the block remained undeveloped, as did most of Manhattan Beach. In 1924, with development kicking in, the city council, using its eminent domain power, expropriated 2 blocks containing 31 lots, 14 of which were owned by Harry Eichelberger and 2 AF which were owned by Willa.
In the condemnation lawsuit which followed, Willa, through her lawyer, demanded as just compensation the sum of $70,000. After the issue was litigated in the Superior Court, the court ruled that the fair market value of Willa's property interest in the lot was reasonably calculated to be $14,000. At the same time, the court ruled that the fair market value of Eichelberger's 14 lots in the same block, 2 of which flanked Willa's lots on the beachfront, was $21,000. From this, most reasonable persons would probably agree that Eichelberger's received $1,500 per lot, which means Willa received about $2,000 for the lot itself and $12,000 for the value of her building and hotel business operation. The court entered judgment in 1929. In 1929, Willa's only child, Harvey, was the age of 41. He was married, and from the marriage came a son named Harvey Jr. It appears Harvey was not well educated, as the 1910 and 1920 census records show him as working, first for his mother as a chauffeur, and then as a cook on the Salt Lake Railroad, a position he seems to have taken over from his father Charles. Charles, during this period, appears to have worked with Willa at her hotel. Willa and Charles used their $14,000, along with the profits earned over the years, to purchase 2 homes in Los Angeles, one for them and one for Harvey, his wife, and son. When Charles died in 1931, Harvey and his family moved in with Willa. until she passed away in 1934. Harvey eventually went through the money that was left to him and eventually lost both homes due to paying the property taxes. He then worked as a janitor. According to census records, Harvey lived at various locations in Los Angeles up to his death in 1954. He worked from job to job, the records say. Harvey had a son named Harvey Jr., who was born in 1926 and died in 1993. Harvey Jr. had one son, Bernard Bruce, who died in 2021. Bernard Bruce had one son, Derek Bruce, who is living today in Las Vegas. What he does for a living is not known. Derek Bruce has two sons by two different mothers, Mike and Anthony Bruce. They both live in Florida. Bernard Bruce graduated from John Fremont High School in Inglewood in 1952. He was an all-star football player and went on to LA Valley Junior College, where he continued to play. In 1954, Bruce transferred to Oregon State University and played 1 year of football under Tommy Prothlin. Bruce married an 18-year-old girl in 1955, quit college, and returned to Los Angeles. From the marriage came his son, Derek Bruce. What Bernard did for a living up to his death in 2021, the record does not say. Go, Bernard, go!
Number 8, returning Bruce's Beach to its rightful owners. And item 9, Los Angeles County sponsor Senate Bill 796, Bradford, which were held by Supervisor Hahn. Supervisor Hahn, please begin your remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, colleagues, it was around this time last year that I, unfortunately, first heard the story of Willa and Charles Bruce. It's embarrassing to me that I grew up in Los Angeles County and did not know this story. I actually grew up learning to swim in the ocean in Manhattan Beach, a few blocks from Bruce's Beach. The story of the American dream being stolen from a hardworking African-American family.
The fact is, nothing was stolen. Many properties in the beach communities were being condemned during this time period. Bruce Beach was the last open space. A park was built 4 years later, and the black property owners were treated just as the white property owners were during the condemnation.
Their race. And it happened right here in LA County. In 1912, Willa and Charles Bruce purchased 2 parcels of property on the Strand in Manhattan Beach, which was one of the only places at that time that allowed African Americans to purchase beachfront land.
Which should speak volumes for the city of Manhattan Beach. While all other beach communities said no, Manhattan Beach allowed a black business and community to flourish unmolested for 12 years straight.
But white neighbors in the area resented the black beachgoers, constantly harassing the patrons of Bruce's Beach in an attempt to drive them out. Despite these racist scare tactics, Bruce's Beach remained a popular destination and the business was thriving.
Actually, that statement is completely 100% made up out of thin air. Actually, the Bruce Resort went 11 years with not one incident being reported of any violence or anything of the sort towards them or their guests. See my other video.
When that didn't work, the city of Manhattan Beach took matters into their own hands and declared eminent domain to take the Bruce's family property in 1924, claiming the need to build a public park.
Everybody always frames it as though it was just the Bruce's lots that were taken. The Bruce's had 2 of the 31 lots that were all taken, white lot owners and black lot owners, all treated equally.
The Bruce's fought in court to keep the property, but in 1929, the city seized it anyway. And Willa and Charles Bruce were paid a fraction of what they asked for and were denied the ability to buy beachfront property elsewhere.
Supervisor Hahn tells us that the Bruces fought in court to keep the property. No, in fact, they did not. They fought in court to obtain just compensation for the taking, and the court ordered judgment on the matter in 1929. Hahn tells us that the Bruces were paid a fraction of what they asked for. All citizens whose property is taken by government ask for the moon and by the judicial process receive just compensation. See my other video. They were paid extremely well, and everybody connected to the deal was very happy. Supervisor Hahn tells us that the Bruces were denied the ability to buy beachfront property elsewhere. In fact, as the Bruces came out of the courtroom doors with their $14,000 in hand, a crowd of realtors were waving offers of similar lots for sale in Manhattan Beach. The 2 other blacks bought such lots. The Bruces bought 2 houses in LA instead.
Bruce's Beach closed down, and the Bruce family left Manhattan Beach, which was exactly what that city council had wanted. And then the land sat empty for decades.
Just another 100% made up story. There was actually a park there 4 years later. It did not sit vacant for decades and decades. Not true. See my other video.
It's well documented that this was an act motivated by racism. A lawful, thriving business that provided African Americans access to the beach was intentionally shut down by the Manhattan Beach government with the intention of driving out black families and black beachgoers.
Wrong again. In fact, no black persons were driven out. The black persons who owned lots in the condemned blocks all bought lots in the adjacent blocks and lived in Manhattan Beach for years and years, happily ever after.
The Bruces had their California dreams stolen from them. And this was an injustice inflicted not just on Willa and Charles Bruce, but on generations of their descendants, who most certainly would have been millionaires if they'd been able to keep this property and their successful business.
This statement is seriously ridiculous, and I do not comprehend how people are repeating this generational wealth crap. Had Willa been in possession of her hotel business in 1929, she would have been holding a pile of debt. Hahn ignores the reality that the Great Depression happened, and with it, almost 50% of the working population of Los Angeles were out of work by 1931. The idea that the 15,000 blacks in the city, now without jobs for the most part, would have the money to spend vacationing at Willa's hotel is just silly. Willa would be dead by 1934. What does Supervisor Hahn think Willa's uneducated son Harvey could do in the face of the economic downturn, stuck with a bankrupt business and a lot he could find no buyer for? Could he have paid the property taxes? Oh yeah, should we be reminded that he did not pay the property taxes, and he eventually ended up losing both properties and the money that was left to him by his parents. I mean, seriously, does anybody believe that millions of dollars would have been passed down through all these generations of people who Dwayne Shepard said most of them are living in poverty. No college degrees, no school in finance, nothing.
And now we at the county have an opportunity to right this wrong. We can't change the past, but we can do everything in our power in the present to correct this historic injustice. Series of land transfers. The land that was once owned by Charles and Willa Bruce now belongs to us, the County of Los Angeles. The LA County Lifeguards Administration Building sits directly on top of the property that used to be the Bruce's Resort. When I realized that the county now had ownership of the original property, I wanted to do what I could to start righting this wrong. I felt there was nothing else to do but to give the property back to the direct descendants of Willa and Charles Bruce. So today, colleagues, we have two motions before us that will get us on the path to start to return the property to the family. The first motion, which is item 8, will direct the county to come up with a plan and the next steps to return the land to its rightful owners, the descendants of Charles and Willa Bruce. This plan will include consulting with the fire department to discuss the future of the lifeguard building. The second motion, item 9, directs the county to sponsor SB 796, which is the legislation that Senator Steve Bradford has introduced that will allow the county to return the land to the family. And the reason we need this is because when the state, who had gotten the property from Manhattan Beach, when they transferred it back to Los Angeles County in 1995, it came with some strings attached. It came with restrictions. And as it stands right now, LA County can't change the ownership or the use of the land because of those state restrictions. SB 796 will remove those restrictions on Bruce's Beach and will allow this board to vote to transfer the land back to the Bruce family.
If you think about it, it's pretty crazy that we're changing laws now so that we can transfer public property into private hands to benefit private parties. How crazy is that?